This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated. Jihadist Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, the left's plans for 2020. With us this evening, Trevor Loudon, author, filmmaker, and so much more. Trevor Loudon, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
It's great to be on, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Trevor. And before we begin, author, filmmaker, tell us a little bit more about yourself, just in case some of our audience members might not know.
Yeah, I'm from New Zealand, but I've been touring I live here now. I've been touring the United States for the last several years. My specialty is exposing the radical left, jihadis, terrorist groups, etc., and their links to the mainstream political parties. So I was the guy who first exposed Obama's ties to the Hawaiian communist Frank Marshall Davis, and also gave Glenn Beck the information that he used to get Van Jones kicked out of the White House. So I've written 3 books, I've made 4 or 5 documentary movies, all on the infiltration of America by enemies of the state, effectively.
It all sounds so Islamophobic, racist, and white supremacist, Trevor.
Yeah, look, bring it on, Jamie. Bring it on.
Well, obviously...
No, forget the white supremacist stuff. That's not me. But I'm definitely not a fan of Islam, and I'm not a fan of anybody who wants to bring down the country.
Well, of course, Trevor, and so this is my sarcasm in the sense that such a noble person as yourself, fighting for the security of the West, of Western civilization, for human rights, that the left is constantly engaged in this slander and libel. That we're in a situation now where anybody that tries to stand up for our civilization tries to point out what the ideology of Islam really is and what Islamic law is and jihad is, that these labels of racist and white supremacists are just cast on everybody. This is quite a sinister strategy they have.
Well, it is. It's sort of I call it the smear test. If you haven't been smeared, you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's basically the enemy. The left, Marxists always demonize because they have no real arguments, so they have to destroy their opposition by slander. This goes back to Lenin. He talked about it. You have to absolutely blacken the name of your opponents. This is Leninist strategy.
Well, Trevor, Tommy Robinson's book, is not being sold on Amazon anymore. This is just crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, we're being deplatformed all over the place. You know, wherever possible, of Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, you name it. The left, Southern Poverty Law Center, and other groups are trying to get anybody who stands up for Western civilization shut down, basically.
Yeah, and they are succeeding. So look, tonight let's talk about the left's plans for 2020. Now, thank God Trump has survived all of these sinister attacks, and I think you may agree with me. I think a lot of these attacks are just simply not just, unethical, but actually illegal and criminal. But the left is now planning for 2020. So look, we've got, all of our list of characters: Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Cortez, Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. I mean, my God, Trevor, there's just this list of characters, so many malicious people with so many destructive agendas.
Well, yeah, the left is really showing its hand now, and it's getting more and more extreme every day, more and more desperate every day, And I have a thing, I say, in order to save America, we have to increase that polarization, because the left is going full on left, but we really haven't, many on our side really do not understand the problem yet. And we've got to go more towards the Constitution and point out just how corrupt and how far left and Marxist these people are.
Absolutely. So what's your reading of the left's plans for 2020 right now, just in terms of what Bernie Sanders is up to, what Cortez... I mean, Bernie Sanders and Cortez, I think, want to bring the Maoist cultural revolution to America. Or, I mean, they've never been asked about what they think about the Gulag Archipelago or what happened in the Soviet Union. But what's your reading of it in terms of what, you know, Booker's up to, Kamala Harris is up to? What do you think about the left's plans to confront Trump in 2020?
Okay, well, it's funny you mentioned the word Maoist, because, see, what is happening, we are going through a rerun of Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition strategy of 1984 and 1988. Now, Jesse Jackson ran twice for president. He was an outsider even then, but he got fourth in the Democratic primary in 1988, and he got 7 million votes. Now, the Rainbow Coalition strategy was complete identity politics. He united the progressive whites, progressive blacks, progressive Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, Muslim Americans, gay Americans. So he had a lavender stripe, he had a yellow stripe, he had a brown stripe, he had a, you know, and this was his terminology. It was uniting the minorities. But in those days, minorities were about 12% of the population. Now they're 38%. And Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition was completely run by Maoist communists, largely the League of Revolutionary Struggle, a pro-Chinese communist group. And they dissolved in 1990, and a whole bunch of them went into the Democratic Party, including a young man from San Francisco called Stephen Phillips. He was a young black law student at Stanford University, active with the League of Revolutionary Struggle and very active in the Rainbow Coalition, both in 84 and 88. But after he left the League, he entered the Democratic Party, and he married very well. He married into the Sandler family from San Francisco. He married the daughter of the family, and that family was worth about $2.6 billion because they used to own Golden West Savings and Loan, which they sold to Wachovia Bank. So Steve Phillips marries Susan Sandler. He becomes the son-in-law of this very wealthy family, and they put half of their money into the progressive movement. They fund the Center for American Progress, ProPublica, and a whole bunch of other groups. So in 2005, Steve Phillips becomes the emissary to the Democratic Party and the socialist movement. In 2005, he went to Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where they set up the Democracy Alliance with George Soros and Tom Steyer, etc. In 2008, he got $10 million. He resurrected the Rainbow Coalition strategy, and he did a big voter registration drive in 18 southern states amongst black and Latino communities for his good friend and protege Barack Obama, which is how Barack Obama got ahead of Hillary Clinton. So go forward to now, Steve Phillips is putting huge amounts of money behind candidates of color. They're doing massive voter registration drives in the southern and southwestern states amongst black and Latino communities. And he's written a book called Brown is the New White, endorsed by Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. It's the Bible of the Democratic Party, and it's all about winning through identity politics. And I can tell you exactly who they have planned to represent them in 2020, and that they are all proteges of Steve Phillips.
Right, right. And, you know, of course, and I mean, this goes without saying, but hey, you want to support minorities, that's great, but are they supporting, let's say, conservative minorities or... Well, this is what I'm saying. It's about ideology, right?
Yeah, they are supporting. See, they were behind Andrew Gillum, who almost won the Marxist mayor of Tallahassee, who almost won the governorship of Florida. They were also backing Stacey Abrams, the Marxist candidate in Georgia, who almost won that race. But I can tell you right now who they're going to run for, who the chosen candidates are for 2020.
Thank you, Trevor. So what do you think the chances are? You know, how do you read the political landscape? You think that despite all of this war on Trump and this incredible heavy money machine that's on the left, you know, it's just incredible that there's this notion that it's the Republicans that have money. I mean, the left is just funded by so much money and so much is behind them. As you, you know, well document and show. But what do you think about Trump's chances despite this war on him?
I think right now it's about 50-50. You know, I think Trump will run hard and he'll reinvigorate his base. But what we need to understand is that the left are doing, and I don't think the Republicans have picked up on this, because the left are doing massive voter registration drives amongst the Black and Latino communities in Arizona, Florida, Texas, Georgia, and North Carolina. And if they flip one or two of those states, they will win.
Right.
So it's very much touch and go. I think Trump can do it, but we've got to understand the strategy. And I don't see anybody in the Republican Party talking about this.
It's just crazy. You know, I just, you know, thank God for people like Candace Owens that's leading the Brexit movement and trying to, you know, show Black Americans about how they're stuck on this totalitarian democratic plantation. And, you know, Candace Owens is making a lot of efforts to try to liberate and lead a lot of Black Americans out of the Democratic Party. And so, you know, we pray for somebody like Candace, very, very brave and noble person. But we need, obviously, conservatives to fight culture war more effectively. And we wish that there were 1 million Candace Owenses and Charlie Kirks.
Well, see, that's the thing. See, that's why the left are absolutely so apoplectic. Because if Trump wins the next election and the economy keeps getting better and the taxes keep coming down and he can stop the flow of drugs from across the southern border, which is decimating Black communities, his approval rating is already 30% in the Black community. If he can keep that going, there's going to be a complete realignment of American politics. Yeah. You know, you're going to get a whole bunch of the Black communities going to peel away from the Democrats, a whole bunch of the Latinos, and the whole Democrat identity politics scam falls on its face. So that's why they have to win the next election.
Absolutely. It's just so telling how much they hate Trump for how much he loves America and how much he's, you know, making America prosper, how much he's helping minorities, and how well everybody's prospering under Trump, including Black Americans and Hispanic Americans, et cetera, and the left is seething because of that.
Well, that destroys their base. That's their whole thing is gone. If people are happy, they've got nothing to offer.
Yeah, well, it's a victimhood cult, right? Before we go, Trevor, look, just these characters in the Democratic Party, Ilhan Omar. Trevor, why would anybody be surprised that a Muslim woman wearing the hijab, which symbolizes a dedication and commitment to Sharia law, why would anybody be surprised that she's making anti-Semitic statements?
Well, she tried to hide it before the election, but I've been watching her for years. Same as Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib was a Marxist Palestinian activist for 10 years before she got into Congress. And it was all over the place if you looked for it. But the media covers up for them until they get elected. Yeah. But see, they're only the tip of the iceberg. There's at least 100 members of Congress and 20 members of the U.S. Senate that couldn't pass a security clearance. They couldn't get any form of background check, including Jerry Nadler, the head of the Judiciary Committee. He has been a member of Democratic Socialists of America since 1977. We go mental about Ocasio-Cortez. He's been a member of the same Marxist group for nearly 30 years.
Very, very scary times. Trevor Loudon, where can people find you if they'd like to support you?
Yep, go to my daily blog, trevorloudon.com. The Loudon is spelled Loudon. And also go to my website, KeyWiki. There's 116,000 files there of Marxist radicals, Congress members, people standing for presidency. Virtually all of the presidential candidates so far have Marxist backgrounds. Virtually all of them.
Scary times. Trevor Loudon, thank you so much for being such a noble and wise and courageous truth teller during these very dark times.
Well, thank you for having me on, Jamie, and thank you for taking the stands that you do. You've been fighting this war for a long time, and it's great to be part of the team.
Thank you. And whenever we're speaking to each other, Annie Cyrus's presence is always somewhere, so we'd like to give a lot of gratitude to Annie as well.
Well, see, Annie's actually lived under tyranny.
Yeah.
We've only thought about living under tyranny. And so she's earned a special place because she's lived it and now she's fighting it.
Well, absolutely.
And we got to take your experience on board.
Well, absolutely. And my parents were dissidents in the Soviet Union. We escaped when I was a very little kid. But I'll tell you, Trevor, that we escaped the Soviet Union, but the Soviet Union is coming to us, right?
Well, it is. And I met a lot of expatriates from the Eastern Bloc, and they're tearing their hair out because they're saying, why don't the Americans see? We saw this back in Eastern Europe. We saw this in the Soviet Union. This is how they did it. Why don't the Americans see? But and that's our job. We got to help the Americans to see the tyranny that's encroaching so fast.
Absolutely. Trevor Loudon, always an honor and a pleasure.
Great to be you. Always likewise, Jamie.
Thank you, Trevor. Ladies and gentlemen, support Trevor Loudon, great, brave, noble freedom fighter in our world today. And we'll see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.